Welcome to Byte-Sized Tech, where we blend casual conversations with insightful discussions on the latest in technology and gadgets. Today, we're diving into a topic that's, well, both futuristic and surprisingly relevant right now. Online voting.
That's right. And with so many important elections happening globally, it feels like the ultimate election year.
It really does. And wouldn't it be amazing if we could just vote from our couch? You know, no lines, no hassle.
It certainly sounds appealing, especially in our, well, increasingly digital world.
Right. But before we all start picturing ourselves voting in our pajamas, let's take a deep dive into what online voting actually entails.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so first things first. Is online voting even a real thing, or is this still something out of a sci-fi movie?
Well, it's actually more of a science fact than fiction. Believe it or not, astronauts have been voting online from space since 1997. They were literally orbiting Earth on the Mir space station, casting their ballots digitally.
Wait, astronauts voting online from space? That's mind-blowing.
It is pretty amazing, isn't it? And it's still happening today. Astronauts on the International Space Station use online voting to participate in elections back home.
So it's not just a futuristic concept. It's already being used in some pretty high-stakes situations.
Absolutely. And even here on Earth, countries like Estonia have been using online voting for general elections since the early 2000s.
Estonia, huh? What makes them so special when it comes to online voting?
Well, one key factor is their robust national digital ID system. Every Estonian citizen has an electronic ID card that they use for all sorts of things, from banking to healthcare to, you guessed it, voting.
Wow.
This system is incredibly secure and makes verifying voters' identities online a breeze.
So their digital ID system is like a super secure digital passport.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, that makes sense. But in places like the U.S., we don't have a national digital ID system like that.
That's right. And without a secure, universally accepted way to verify identity online, the risk of fraud remains a major obstacle to wider adoption of online voting.
Okay, so identity verification is a big hurdle. What other challenges are there?
Well, let's imagine you're voting from your couch. Sounds convenient, right?
Yeah.
But what if someone's looking over your shoulder, pressuring you to vote a certain way? This brings up the issue of coercion, which is much harder to prevent in an online setting compared to the privacy of a traditional voting booth.
Yeah, I can see how that could be a problem. It's like the digital equivalent of someone peering over your shoulder while you're filling out your ballot. Not cool.
Exactly. In a traditional polling place, you have that anonymity and privacy, but voting from home or even from your phone introduces potential vulnerabilities.
So how do we address this coercion issue? Is anyone even trying to tackle this?
Well, remember, Estonia, our online voting pioneers, they've implemented a clever solution. They allow voters to recast their votes as many times as they want, and only the final vote counts.
Interesting.
This gives voters a way to change their vote if they've been coerced by someone.
That's actually pretty ingenious. It's like a digital undo button for voting.
It is, but it's not a perfect solution, and there are other challenges to consider.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
What else is standing in the way of us all voting in our pajamas?
Well, remember that device you're imagining voting from, your phone or laptop? That's actually another potential weak point.
You mean my trusty tech companion could betray me in the voting booth?
Well, not exactly betray you, but it could be vulnerable to malware. If your device is infected with malware, it could potentially manipulate your vote without you even knowing it.
So it's like those sneaky little programs that steal your credit card info, but for votes.
Kind of. And unlike online banking, where transactions can be tracked and verified, online voting relies on anonymity to protect your vote. That makes it much harder to detect and prevent fraud if malware is involved.
That's a bit unnerving. Are there any ways to protect against malware messing with our votes?
There are some potential solutions being explored. One idea is a cryptographic method called the Benelo challenge.
Benelo challenge. Sounds intense.
It's basically a way for voters to confirm that their votes were recorded correctly without revealing their actual choices. Imagine it like a digital receipt that proves your vote was counted, but doesn't say who you voted for.
Okay, that makes sense. But I'm guessing it's not that simple to implement on a large scale.
You're right. Scaling this kind of system for a national election with millions of voters would be incredibly complex. And there's another big threat that we need to discuss.
All right, hit me with it. What else could go wrong with online voting?
Denial of service attacks.
Denial of service attacks, like those things that take down websites.
Exactly. These attacks could flood the online voting system with fake traffic, causing it to crash or become inaccessible. Even a minor delay could significantly impact voter turnout and potentially even influence election outcomes.
That sounds like a recipe for chaos and a major blow to public trust in the election process.
It's a very real concern. Think of it like digital bad weather, except this bad weather could be targeted at specific areas or groups of voters, preventing them from casting their ballots.
Okay, so we've got identity verification, coercion, malware, and denial of service attacks. It's starting to feel like online voting might be more trouble than it's worth.
It's definitely a complex issue with no easy answers, but it's important to remember that the existing voting systems we have, while not perfect, are the result of years of hard work and dedication to ensuring fair and secure elections.
That's a great
They
point.
might not be as flashy as online voting, but they've served us relatively well.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive into online voting. We've seen the potential allure, but also the significant challenges that need to be addressed. It's clear that this is a topic with far-reaching implications. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a moment to process all this information.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, so we've talked about all these challenges with online voting. It's starting to feel like a digital minefield out there.
Well, it's certainly a complex landscape, but that doesn't mean we should give up on the idea altogether.
I'm not giving up just yet. But I do want to understand what we'd be gaining from all this effort. I mean, is the convenience of online voting really worth the potential risks to the integrity of our elections?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's a balancing act, weighing convenience and accessibility against security and trust.
On one hand, I love the idea of voting from my couch, but on the other hand, we're talking about the foundation of our democracy here.
Exactly. And that's why the research and development in this field is so crucial. There are brilliant minds out there working tirelessly to create secure and reliable online voting systems.
So there's hope for the future of secure online voting.
Absolutely. Researchers are exploring all sorts of cutting-edge technologies to tackle the challenges we discussed.
Like what? Give me some techie hope here.
Well, one of the most promising areas is blockchain technology.
Blockchain. Isn't that the thing behind Bitcoin and all those cryptocurrencies?
That's right. But blockchain's potential goes far beyond just digital currencies. Think of it like a digital ledger that's virtually tamper-proof.
Okay, so how would that help with online voting?
Imagine each vote being recorded as a unique encrypted entry on this blockchain. It would make it extremely difficult to alter or manipulate votes because any changes would be immediately visible to everyone on the network.
So it's like a public record of every vote,
Yeah.
but with like extra layers of security and transparency.
You got it. And combined with other technologies like advanced cryptography and biometrics, blockchain could help address many of the security concerns surrounding online voting.
That's actually pretty fascinating. I'm starting to feel a little more optimistic now.
It's an exciting field for sure, but technology alone isn't enough. It's going to take a collaborative effort from technologists, policymakers, and most importantly, informed citizens like you.
Informed citizens, what can we do?
Stay engaged in the conversation. Learn about the different online voting systems being developed, ask questions, and voice your concerns. The future of voting is something that affects us all, and it's worth taking the time to understand the complexities involved.
That's a great point. We can't just blindly trust that technology will magically solve all the problems.
Exactly. We need to be critical thinkers and active participants in shaping the future of our democracy.
Okay, so I'm hearing you loud and clear. Stay informed, stay engaged.
Exactly. Now, before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, the value of our existing voting systems.
Right. You mentioned that we shouldn't get so caught up in the excitement of new technology that we forget about the systems that are already in place.
It's easy to get swept up in the allure of shiny new things, but it's important to remember that our current voting systems, whether it's in-person voting or mail-in ballots, are the result of decades of hard work and refinement. They might not be perfect, but they represent the efforts of countless individuals who fought to ensure fair and free elections.
And it's a reminder that the right to vote is precious and hard-won, something that many people around the world are still fighting for.
Absolutely. It's a privilege and a responsibility. So while we explore the possibilities of online voting, let's not forget the importance of protecting and strengthening the systems we already have.
Well said. So where does this leave us? We've explored the potential of online voting, the hurdles it faces, and the importance of appreciating our existing systems. It's been quite the journey.
It has, and it really highlights how technology, even with all its promise, intersects with fundamental aspects of our society, like democracy and civic participation.
It really does. And it leaves us with a lot to think about. But on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this fascinating discussion.
Agreed. It's been a pleasure diving into this topic with you.
So we've talked about the potential benefits and drawbacks of online voting, the technological hurdles, and the importance of our existing voting systems. What stands out to you as the biggest takeaway from all of this?
What's fascinating to me is that this isn't just a technical discussion. It's about the very essence of democracy and how technology can either enhance or hinder our ability to participate in it.
It really is. And I think you've highlighted something really important. We can't just blindly trust that technology will solve all of our problems, especially when it comes to something as crucial as voting.
Exactly. We need to be informed and engaged citizens, asking critical questions about the systems being developed and holding our leaders accountable for implementing them responsibly.
Okay, so informed and engaged. Got it. But after this deep dive, I have to admit, I'm still on the fence about whether I'd feel comfortable voting online.
And that's perfectly fine. It's a decision that each of us will have to make for ourselves, weighing the potential benefits against the potential risks.
I guess I'm just a little wary of putting my faith in a system that could be vulnerable to hackers, malware, or technical glitches.
Those are valid concerns, and it's important to acknowledge them. But remember, the technology is constantly evolving. What seems daunting today might be commonplace tomorrow.
True. Remember when we were all worried about using credit cards online? Now it's second nature.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe in a few years we'll be having the same conversation about some other revolutionary voting technology we can't even imagine yet.
Well, that's a thought-provoking way to end our discussion.
Indeed, the future of voting is sure to be full of surprises.
Well, listeners, that wraps up our deep dive into the world of online voting. It's a complex issue with no easy answers. But hopefully, this discussion has provided some food for thought. Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to Byte-Sized Tech. If you enjoyed this deep dive, like, comment, share, and subscribe for more fun tech discussions.